right. Okay, so I hope this is good with the sound. Can everybody hear me? All right. So, good afternoon and Tashi Delek. So today I am very honored and excited to introduce Shakor Khentrul Rinpoche. He is the reincarnation of my teacher, one of my principal teacher. When I first entered into the monastery, I studied under his previous life for like a little bit over 3 years. And I had a great privilege when he was actually teaching in the monastery. I recall that when he was at the end of his life in his previous, like a few months before his passing, he was actually sick, and he was old. And even though all the monks in the monasteries were his students, and so everybody wanted to receive teaching from his previous one. But due to his illness and the physical condition, that he sort of like people actually stopped requesting, and he also said, I'm just here in the monastery to be with you. So somehow he was not going to teach. And the one day I went to get a blessing, an audience with him, and then I did my prostration, and then he asked me, so what year you are studying? And so that time my, being in the monastery was my 2nd year. So I said, I was just in my, this Shungsar, class, which is the almost like a 2nd year. And then, so you are studying hard, he said. I said, I hope so. And then he said, the important thing is you need a teacher. And so who, at that time I had another teacher, Khentrul Rinpoche. But somehow, when I was in my 2nd year, what happened was he was invited by some American scholar in New Jersey, that he went to New Jersey, and he was spending almost a year teaching some of the students. I think among them, this Alexander Berzin, I think maybe many of you heard his name. He is like one of the Buddhist scholar in the 70s or 80s. And also there's Jeffrey Hopkins. Those are like some of the, the American sort of like Buddhist scholar. So they invited him, and then he was doing some kind of like a academics, like a translation or teaching or something put together. That's why my teacher, Khentrul Rinpoche, was out of the country. He was not in the monastery. And then I think his previous one felt a little sorry for me. And so you don't have any other teacher? And I said, no, I don't. Then he said, what about I will teach you? And I was like, Sorry about that. Yeah, so that was a great honor. And so, he stopped teaching to everybody, but he asked me to come. And so it was a great opportunity. and I don't know, somehow I was very fortunate and lucky that, he said, I will teach you, and don't bring anybody. He said, just yourself, come yourself. And then I felt a little sort of like inconvenience because, all the monks in the monastery, they respect him, they revere him, and everybody is very concerned about his health. And so I felt like, what will other monks think? That maybe they think that I did something, like I sort of like, I forced him, or I requested so many things that maybe that is why he accepted. And so I was thinking like that, and then somehow at that moment, maybe he read my mind, I was kind of like, and then he said, don't worry about what other people thinks. And just say to others, other classmates and students or monks that, I personally ask you to come and receive teaching. So that was one of the great, fortunate thing that happens in my life. And I actually said this story. One time I was having an audience with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and we were having some kind of conversation, and he asked me in the monastery, who is your teacher? Who did you study with? So then I have a few teachers, and among them, I mentioned, Rinpoche's previous one, Shakor Khentrul Rinpoche. I said Shakor Khentrul, and then His Holiness was like very sort of like wonderful. That is, you are very fortunate to study it under him. And then, he also sort of like, His Holiness was very curious, and because he, when I tell this story, that he was teaching only me, and he wanted to know more, asking me, what did he teach you? How did he teach you? Any special thing he said, he wanted to collect many information from me, and I was like, I'm sorry, I was just beginning my studies in the monastery, so I didn't recollect so much. But there was one unique way of teaching that I remember, that, I bring the text, and he's sitting on the, his bed, I'm sitting on the ground. And in the monastery, when we go for teaching, what we do is we first enter the room, and then we do the prostration to him, 3 prostration, and then we sit down, and then, the teacher will start giving teaching. And after, first day when I went to teaching with him, and I was trying to give my text to him so that, he will read the text. And then he will sort of like give the explanation, commentaries and stuff like that. And then when I was about to give my text, and he said, no, keep this, and you read it for me. So I was looking at the text, and then I was reading. And as I was reading, then he said stop. After I read like one sentence, and he would say, stop. And then he tells me, explain to me what you have just read. And at the beginning, I was like a little bit hesitant, nervous, because, I was new. And so it is almost like I came here to receive teaching. How can I know? You are supposed to teach me. And I was looking at him, and he was very insisting. He said, no, tell me, it doesn't matter whatever makes sense or not, just what you got from this sentence. What is the meaning that you got from reading this sentence? And then I have to tell, what I thought. So, you get something from that, right? And then I just kind of look at him and I say, I think this is, meaning is like this. And then he will say, good. And there's more meaning to it. And he will tell me all the different, different level of meanings on the one sentence. And I was very new that time. I wish I could have recorded many of this, because the way he was teaching has so many different layers. He was saying, on the surface, each word has this meaning, but then it has different meanings from the, what do you call, from the outer meaning, inner meaning, secret meaning, sort of like so many, he was explaining this. And so those are just a few, what do you call, the moments that I had, with his previous one. And then just kind of like Shakor Khentrul Rinpoche, his name is his previous one's name. We address him as Shakor Khentrul Rinpoche, that is his name. And he actually was also the teacher. He teaches Dalai Lama. And Dalai Lama, one time he mentioned, he said that there is one very difficult topic, or sort of like the meaning of the Buddha's teaching is on the emptiness, and then sometimes we call it Uma. Uma means Madhyamika. So this is one of the hardest, sort of like the main meaning of the Prajna Paramita, that wisdom, the wisdom understanding the ultimate truth. So that is a very popular one, which we call it Madhyamika. And one time in one of the big public public teaching that given by His Holiness, and His Holiness said that, I have studied this subject long time, but I feel like I understood this only after meeting Genyima, Shakor Genyima. He said that, that is why Dalai Lama was very, actually, he respect, Shakor Genyima very much. And I also remember, Shakor Genyima passed away in South India, in Drepung. And one time when Dalai Lama was visiting the, Drepung monastery, and one day, just kind of like suddenly, Dalai Lama actually asked, he was kind of like asked the other monks, saying that, where did Genyima, Shakor Genyima passed away? Which room? And I want to go there. And then, when Dalai Lama say he want to go there, everybody is like, okay, what should we do? Right? They're all sort of like trying to arrange. And, my teacher, Shakor Genyima, he actually passed away in one small, sort of like a monk dormitory room. And Dalai Lama, actually insists that he wants to go there. And somehow, those days, we kept that room where he passed away, and one bed that he used to sit. So it is just kind of empty room. And Dalai Lama went in there and he did, did the 3 prostration to the bed. And then what happened was Dalai Lama himself went underneath the bed. He just, went underneath the bed, and almost he was crying and doing the prayers. Like that much respect. Like he was showing, in the outward also, of course inside he has a lot of respect, but that kind of like a master, Shakor Genyima was. And and here, his reincarnation. And I have a great story about, how I first met him. It was during one of the big event called the Kala Chakra initiation. in South India. And I heard that, my teacher's reincarnation was already recognized, but I was living in America most of the time those days. So I didn't go to monastery much. So I haven't seen his photo or anything. I just heard. But then suddenly I went to this, event. And then during those events, so many people gather. Like when Dalai Lama gives a big event, there will be like 300,000, 400,000 devotees from all over the world will gather. So I was there during those, Kala Chakra sort of like event. And one time, when the one of the session was done, I was coming out, and then suddenly I met one of the senior, monk from my monastery, and his name was Gen Wangchen. So Gen Wangchen was there, and he was very well respected. So I just kind of bowed to Gen Wangchen, and I just kind of greeted him. And then Gen Wangchen was holding my hand, and he said, "Oh, Rinpoche, how are you?" And we are just talking. And just beside Gen Wangchen, there was a little boy. And this little boy just kept looking at me and smiling. But I was, because I was with the senior monk, so I have to pay attention to the senior monk, because he was talking to me. So I was kind of respectfully kind of bowing and listening to what the senior monk is saying. But as we were walking, and then he was just keep looking. And then, there was one path that his, room where he was staying, he has to go that way, and I have to go that way. So then I said, "Oh, so sorry, I have to go this way. So, I will see you later." Then they left, and I was just kind of like, didn't pay much attention. So I just said, because there are so many people. So I don't want to block the road, because people are going everywhere. So then I went in my room, and that night I slept, and something interesting dream came in my, that night. In the morning, suddenly, my teacher appears in my dream. That was his, previous one. And very clear dream, very clear. It was like, and then, I had a many occasion that he came in my dream, but that time, he looks very serious. He was very serious and almost like little bit sort of like showing sort of not liking kind of face. And he was kind of pointing to me. He said to me, "Why didn't you say hi to me today?" That's the dream. And I was like, in my dream, I was like thinking, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean I didn't say hi? And then he said very clearly, he said, "Today, the little boy that you saw, that was me." In my dream, he said that. That was me. Don't doubt that he is my reincarnation, not. He, that, and I was so sort of like shocked. I just kind of, because, because we have so much respect to our teacher, so your teacher shows in your dream and then just kind of little bit scolding. You get sort of like a very, it felt like real, right? It felt like a real, but then I woke up from my, like a sleep, and then I was looking around, and that time I was sharing room with one of my Rinpoche friend, another Rinpoche. So we are like, and then he was sleeping there, and when we were coming, that Rinpoche was with me, when I was talking to the senior monk. So we were all four of us. And then he woke up because I was kind of like a little bit, making a noise. What happened? What happened? And then I said, "I just dreamed my teacher," and he scolded me. And he said, "What happened?" And my teacher Shakor Khentrul came in my dream, and he said, "Why didn't you say hi to me?" And so, "Who's that little boy?" I said. Today I said, "Who is that little boy?" And my friend Rinpoche said, "You don't know?" I said, "No, I don't know." There was your teacher's reincarnation. I was like, Why didn't you tell me? I said. Because we were together. And why didn't you tell me? I must have done something, that time, just go to him and then, just something like that. And then my friend said, I assumed that you already know. And I was like, no, I didn't know. How can I know? I'm staying outside of the monastery. You guys are staying in the monastery. So you should at least tell me. And then he was like, oh, that's okay. Now, we will, as soon as we, when the sun rises, we will get up and we will go and, meet him. And then we, we got up in the morning and then just get ready. I brought the kata and some fruits and, trying to go to see him, where he was just kind of asking other people, where is Gyewon Chen and, Yangsi, And I was going around, and then there was one room, and it was locked. And then I asked, where did they go? And that morning, somehow, they already went to some, other pilgrimage site. They already left like early morning, maybe, some there's a place like a 2 or 3 hours drive to go to see. So I was kind of like, I didn't see them. And then that next day, the event is already, completing and finishing. So I didn't get to see that time. But then later, I went to the monastery, and then, I properly sort of like greeted him. So those are just out of many stories. I have just a few of these stories, and then just kind of like, and this time, Rinpoche actually, since he entered into the monastery, and he actually started when he was like 10 years old in the monastery, and now he was born in 1989, so he's 34 or 35, right? And last year he completed all his monastic studies, and so this year is his first time coming to America, and so here we have a sort of like a opportunity to, see the reincarnation of my teacher, and I'm very happy and proud to introduce him to all of you. And so I got a lot of blessing, and I will request Rinpoche to bless all of us. All right. So this is just a short introduction of, who was my teacher, Shakor Khentrul, and then, his reincarnation. And actually, he was recognized by Dalai Lama. Right? He was recognized by Dalai Lama as the reincarnation of Shakor Khentrul. And so today, actually, I call this Dharma talk and discussion. So, so there is no specific, what do you call, topic, just general Dharma. And actually, this whole kind of like the story about my, teacher and how, he taught me, and then how we, in this reincarnation came. I think that is just a general Dharma talk. It is, it is a Dharma. So then I will first, request Rinpoche to say something on Dharma. It is just Nangchu Ngodru. So just, and then Rinpoche has a limited English, so he will say in Tibetan, and I will, translate what he has said. All right?
Hello. Udelda samlola samji justile shue in tema thangbo ani zo rumche ushu thola ange nambani re anam samade jebatel kaustation.
he said, first of all, he want to greet you all by saying Tashi Delex, and that is a Tibetan greeting. And so with the, Rinpoche and with the two Geshe and everybody, he is so happy to be here today.
안디네 다 얘기 로규 신에면도 망디 름부치 당기 참마지 가난 조소 안디제 인데 다예 단다 조 쉐디다 마트린데 테마 아릴레 두스체네 테마 당보체네 두스차데 요레 안디제기 고급 두즈딘제 지라 아미세 아니 름부치다 아니 데 제야당 안다가나신 rumbuche 최저 디토라 안 용토에 등하라 아니 아장기 가워충스러.
And this is his first time here, and actually Rinpoche already introduced my past life and this life, and then just kind of like after finishing his studies in the monastery and then coming here in the America for the first time. So coming to Phoenix and coming to this center is a great honor, he said.
네, 다당기 rumbuche기 땅에 구도 고마시네 민도 개념이 이마겐젠다 아니 rumbuche기 바로기 마마기 루규다 이제 자네 rumbuche기 참mol로지 가난 조슬라 안디네 rumbuche기 당기 디나 소나에들에 마마 rumbuche기 다가랑 알 두스네 가난 것도 디디 rumbuche기 해질로절 녜잘 두스페베 카두지라 rumbuche기 두공지기 갑딜라 이제 지총소스인데 디게 양교슈 뭐지 rumbuche기 당기 손차와 인자 어디디 rumbuche기라 심나 이제 지총소 아니 개인기 이제 간난 것도 쓰네 디디 rumbuche기 또 스티라 체닝해잘 로절 콤베나로 녜잘 또 스페이스 디디 페디 rumbuche기 다라 디좀 디디 말 송것도 디 손데 말래 디디 가르쇼래 딱 미세 좋아자지 가래 슈비나 니 이제 지시네 균해야.
So this is a great sort of connection that I had with Rinpoche, and Rinpoche already mentioned about our spiritual connection with his past life and then this life, and then the story that actually the happens like regarding the dream and all these things. And he said when first time when I came to him that when I mentioned that whole detailed story to him, and he said he felt something which he cannot express. What is that?
이제 인데 땅가란 차샤비네 다가나신 rumbuche레 안 탄다 당기 rumbuche기 큐스디나 손남베 탄다 개원첸라 쉐어 콘임비네 마다님도기 저와디 다가나 개콘라임비네 오마구도 고메잘 차비치 디네 아니 개 자살 못윈다 로지난 슈디오 마라이나야 제스페제다 참아 겐잘 로지 슈 이제 치디 다디기 저와디야 간다 구도 고마다 아니 저와 여버치라 마라이나야 겐다 님도 춘제 슈니 코 짐바라디 지 컨디쇼레 최디 파츠다 간주 최고로 쉐나시 권 두신마 윤데 지딘제지 용도 나나시 rumbuche 다 믹세기 고메가스랑 저와 지차 되게 요래라 안탄데가스이나야 믹세다 rumbuche 간주 주베고 렌소 나로를 냠도 제니 춤바단 믹세기 다 rumbuche다 sem다니보 용하단 딘제기 저와디 믹세지 용되게 도스라.
And the thing that earlier I mentioned about this one senior monk, Gen Wangchen, and Gen Wangchen is one of the principal teacher for Rinpoche. He said, he actually in the monastery all this year. He studied under the guidance of Gen Wangchen. And like Gen Wangchen was also one of the principal student of his previous one. So, Gen Wangchen was a student of his previous one. And then when he actually studied this life, then Gen Wangchen, with the, sort of like a lot of love and kindness, that he actually taught everything that what Gen Wangchen learned from his past life. So that is kind of like somehow in the Dharma, like how like one student gets everything from that master, and then later on, like the next life, they give back all the things that they have learned again. So this is kind of like, we call it like a Dharma chakra, sort of like a, it is kind of, Dharma chakra means Shakor. Shakor means sort of like it is the will, the will of sort of from one life to next life, kind of like turning the wheel of the Dharma from one life to another life. And as I said, like I also learned from his previous one, and because of my connection with Shakor Khentrul and Rinpoche, he said that he also felt like something like a special spiritual connection with me, that it is just there's no reason, just kind of like something that spontaneously he feels something, and that is something to do with the past life, he said.
The logyu gi gyabchung dinde ji shishabe tone di nanglo ne tang anzo le dang lenje se gi namsha ji dang ani penju tebe gi namsha ji tande jum di nanglo ne su kowa ji le yugi re sam ngare dinde sting do.
So Rinpoche is actually saying that when you look at this life story of the two different lives, and so it actually shows a very interesting, powerful message of karma, and somehow in the Buddhism, karma plays a very important role, and so like just kind of like from this life event, like the past life, this life, sort of this, and how you just kind of, even though you don't know the person in this life, but you feel sort of like some kind of connection, and then like two totally different kind of people from a different background meeting each other and having this kind of sense of connection. He said that is actually lessons on karma itself.
인도 지당 안조 낭추 롬니 최고의 기타 미유신의 민도 최대 가르치는 제국의 요레스 디 저디 담비나 더조디 안조 상물로디 한 대화 되거든 동해미 되봐 이제 지기 내단지 차디 요레디 인도 안조 최장야기 미유코라 이제 지 차디 요레 당 안조 최기 롭자수 렌단디 지당 안조 낭추 롬니 제베 토네 고추기 냠네 림베제네 퇴야지 용구요레 믹세 추기 안조라 소낭디 컨데지 제 도그레서 아래 삼발라 컨데시 레게도 슈비나 단다 렌제기 저와당 렌제지 토네 안조라 참참 디상기 칭외베 토네 안안조로 초제 모토야지 디 렌제당 렌제기 제외 토네 지 용데디 띵안조 추기 마도 아니 믹세 심바토네 수술로 용솔 레모토야 이제 직지 연구요레스.
And one of the main point in Dharma is the law of causality, the karma. So it is like, and generally, Rinpoche is saying, as a Buddhist, like, we are practicing Buddha Dharma. And if we ask why we are practicing, what is the purpose of practicing Dharma, and the reason actually, the purpose is only just because it is like same for everybody. Like everybody wants to be happy, nobody wants to be, to suffer. So that is just kind of like the purpose is happiness is the purpose of just general life, as well as if you are practicing Dharma. So that is somehow, if we talk it from a Buddhist point of view, then like how can we achieve happiness from the Buddha Dharma is the best way is to understand the law of causality. So it is like if you understand the karma, so the how karma work, and so that is he thinks that one of the main kind of like thing in the Buddhism is to understand the karma, the law of causality, and then see the value of karma and the truth of the karma and respect the karma. So those are the main kind of point of the Buddha's teaching or the Buddha Dharma.
지다 ngaranzuda nangchu nyamle nangken chi dang nangchu namle chigmene shune mendo da chi chelo ma shuken gi mini gi paru gi keba chi shö di chida ngaranzu nangchu nyamle nangken chi mi na ya gyula nyumon dang da chi kari ine di nganzu changmo ji yong gi mi changmo lo yong de chi chego yore da ine nangchu chekin dang ma chikin ni gi paru gi keba chi shö di nangchu chekin gi me di gi nyumon la soba lebe khatu la di la tenzin che tuya dang di la nyembo den tuya di nangchu chekin chi gi me gi ani che tuya chi dang ani gomba she guaya chi chego yores.
So in generally, sort of like as a person, we all wanted to be happy and nobody wanted to suffer. And so main thing that is, bringing difficulties or sufferings in our life is the, difficulty that when you actually have some kind of affliction or delusions. So everybody's, in our like days, in our days, sometime we have, we will kind of have a delusion, or what do you call the afflictions, such as attachment, anger, like, those things kind of appears. So as a practitioner, when you practice Dharma, actually what Dharma actually teach you is that Dharma teach you how to deal with the afflictions. So it is like when the affliction arises, and if you can actually immediately notice it, and then just kind of like how to actually deal with your own affliction and calm yourself down, and that is actually taught in the Dharma. So we should always take that essence and improve your mind, and then improve your capacity to deal with the afflictions in your day-to-day life, and that is the benefit of the Dharma practice.
인도 자외다 남창마 덴덴 남규네 경고름치 쇠베 rumbuchire 남부서 잔네 천지 쉬니 남베 토르 덴덴 롭종 난 심바당 난켄 덴제 경양 차데 유기레 덴제 인도 아래 레월라다 남부서 부구 조 쉬에디 아니 ngaranzu 수수 강 롭종 제베기 남쉐기 냠렌디 남규 수수 최외 최라 배주당 토부지당 배나 당조 영어름치 조 간난데기 안조 참바당 닌지당 동니당 덴제기 다와소나야 덴조 안조 장야기 장시기 롭센 덴제 잠치로 공부마시베 토네 덴조 남규 수수 니샤 추지 나로라 아니치 가르체 디토로 배주당나 표주시네 민도 디톨 냠내 치토야지 디 참에 공부시로나스.
And he said that I hope you have, all of you must have studied Dharma. You know, some of you might have a fortunate to receive teaching from His Holiness the Dalai Lama himself, and then like many other Dharma teacher, or you know, like you might have heard or you might have read the Dharma books and many things. And so he said his one request is that just if you are learning Dharma and you are practicing Dharma, so Dharma, like just learn how to bring the essence of the Dharma practice in your day-to-day life. And just kind of like you know, there are some important points such as love, compassion, interdependence, emptiness. You know, those are some of the things that you are, you know, you actually learn from the Buddhist teaching or Buddhist books and things like that. So the most important thing is just to sort of like bringing, learning how to bring that into your day-to-day life when you are actually living your day-to-day life. And then if you can bring that Dharma essence in your own life and then making yourself a better person in, you know, as you are living your life. And he said that will be the very important. And so he said that is his request. Please try to bring Dharma into your day-to-day life.
단다다 예 남부솔 강슈데베 대야 나라이나야다 댄서라 베제테 안디주지 게 남부조 군드네 롭치슈 다강 수수기 다게 남부조선에 강 고바디 아니 장네 남부솔 슈에 딘제지 차데요리 테마도베 나랑 디톨 상만냠뇨 퇴니 니 단단 남부솔 투변 수에든지 슈투에 케민도 나라이나야 랑가 디간라 냠네 체니 조단 조심바 인스.
And Rinpoche is saying that I learn with the great masters and teachers in the monasteries, and whatever I'm speaking here, he said, I'm not speaking it from my experience. It's not like I am same like you all. I'm also a learning, and I'm having a learning experience, and so I'm just what I learn is, he said that from all this master is that just kind of taking it into experience and taking it into daily life, and that is he is also doing, and he also wants you to bring Dharma in your day-to-day life and make it an experience, sort of like not just learning love and compassion on the book, but bringing love and compassion and becoming more and loving and compassionate person. And he himself is trying to, like on this path of becoming more and more loving and, you know, kind of like a compassionate person. And he hoped that all of you day by day will become more and more compassionate and loving and better person.
직전에 나무서 투리안티 공시바레 가레스나 rumche기 당긴가 모두 슈드 다 구도 고마디 미세 차베당 든제 토라 킹게 쳔보레라 망고지 기겐 차데고르 디인디 넘버서 셈르 직전에 아마 당번에 레디네 우고만나시 자마 신켄지 차네 레브레삼 공시바로 오 든제지.
So he said, you know, Rinpoche said so many wonderful things about his past life, who was a very learned and scholar, and, you know, the great master that how he was. And then, you know, this lifetime, maybe, you know, saying that he's the reincarnation of that great scholar. And maybe some of you might be thinking, if his past life was so scholar and master like this, then he might know everything. And he said, I'm sorry, I had to learn all this thing in the monastery, and I didn't, from the beginning, when I studied in the monastery, he said, I'm same like everybody, that I also had to start learning from the, beginning. So he's saying that, please don't think that I am as scholar and, kind of learned master like my previous one. And I think that is his humbleness, right?
lobjong che ni nyamlen chi che bi na ten den kyo nga me paja gi to ne che de la yan tix ar sho re lobjong che gi ri ba yi ne re yang chi paja ra de ma su ne ti sab jwe da ko rimbe ko kenza ma su ne rimbe ze ne ani yang chi o nyamlen gi rimba di da kang tu ya jo tu ya gi 사변 자지다 딘제치 유기레 something 아래 이지 슈유 가레스나 나란조 상기베기 람디 소윤데 개바 장매 숨도 초 사과야 당 딘제 남샤지 손대고래 딘제 인데 덴덴 만조 삼로게 개왕함에 바자기 토네 수수 체딜라 안주버냐면에 강도 남베이나 아니고 나란조 마스네 다지 림베제니야 덴덴
So, but he said he believes that there was something from the past life, practice that actually left huge imprints. We call it pakcha, means kind of like leaving a huge imprints in his consciousness. And generally in the Buddhism, like if we talk it from the Sutrayana point of view, like for the historical Buddha, Shakyamuni, like he actually didn't become enlightened being just kind of like after 1 or 2 lives. We say that Shakyamuni Buddha actually become Buddha or enlightened being after 3 limitless eons, which Kebatamyasum means kind of like sometime we cannot measure the time, because it's kind of like if we put it into human years, it is like trillions of lifetimes. So so this is why he said to the when we are on the path to enlightenment, somehow it is just kind of one life after another. We just have to bring more and more imprints in our consciousness, and then someday, sort of with the putting the practice and with that imprints, and he hoped that he will sort of like keep that on that path, and then that is like he trusts that he might have some spiritual imprints connection that left on his consciousness from his past lives.
kanandu darum chegi de kamajas chene derin shue de jeji ine da ngara ine tanda lobjong pege jinjarang de tönsa zre ne nyamlen chegi rimbadi shine da gozu yori shine peji lobjong ji shi jinjara tönju yor de nyamlen gi rimbadi shine jinjara de masone 당보 chene shine ya gozu yor de indinge number sol shugi nyamyon toni de shue jan ke mindu amingse de Rinpoche
So he said the Dharma talk is that much. And actually just kind of, he said he didn't have a much experience of giving Dharma talk and teaching yet. And, on the surface, he just completed his academic studies in the monastery. And somehow, even though he's completed his academic studies, but just kind of I am on the beginning, a pace of practicing Dharma. So, so far, I didn't have much of the Dharma practice in this life. I have learned so many things, but I didn't have much time to practice. And so I cannot give a Dharma talk from my experience or my, just kind of my practice. And so, actually I wasn't planning to give this kind of Dharma talk during this kind of visit. But, ZaChoeje Rinpoche sort of insisting me. And when you come to Arizona, you have to teach. So that is why just kind of today I just kind of put myself on giving a Dharma talk. And so that is what he said.
Tambo Gombe na ledu Rinpoche lomye nambegi lugyu mangu kodebre Rinpoche dang ngarangi mido dil chashana Rinpoche kembache digan lame chabida tsamulo kenge yangboche dinje chade gor dinje indu da Rinpoche gi ne kudo koma di tsini ngadela she sombre de ine ngarangi tande nedan di chidu de Rinpoche gi chila nge di ZaChoeje shude dan di tangi Rinpoche gi kudo kome lugyu nalo la Rinpoche kudo koma gi geje chini di ma jeshe gyabshus di Rinpoche gi chi son son di nangshin ngara ine tanda di Rinpoche di kado shebe gi tsoa di ngara ine di lenjo chi
So I forgot some part of the what he said. So the main thing what he said was, he said that, just kind of when Rinpoche asked me to give this talk, and when he first came into the monastery, and somehow maybe when he first came into monastery, I was maybe already completed my studies, and then maybe I have left the monastery. And so when he was in the monastery in the beginning, he didn't have a chance to meet with me in this life. But he heard so many of my stories. And then just kind of he was just praising little bit me, that how, in the monastery, how people are talking about me, which sort of and that's just kind of I don't know, I'm not a really hard-working student, but I have a reputation in the monastery that I was a very hard worker student. So sometimes it is just kind of interesting, right? I know myself very well that I didn't study much, but people thought I studied a lot. And there was some kind of reputation that I was studying a lot. And I will give you one example. It's just kind of interesting, I just remember that. And some rumors, good rumors, spreading in the monastery. People are talking, later they asked me that other people are talking that I was studying so hard that I don't sleep at all at night. And it's not true. I always sleep. But the rumors were that, I was so hard, worker student that I studied even at night, that, I don't sleep. And somebody asked me, is that true? And I said, no, it's not true. then how come these people are making these stories? And somehow, I have a kind of physical weakness that I cannot sleep in the dark. So some people has this kind of like some, like a sickness kind of thing, right? So if totally dark, then my physical sort of like, I get a little bit of sort of what you call nightmare. So that is why every time when I sleep, I always put a little light. So in the monastery, everybody sleeps. So my room has a light, right? So people don't see what I'm doing inside there, but they only see the light. So then, they always make a story that, ZaChoeje doesn't sleep, He is always studying, but it is not true. That's just kind of like, because Rinpoche said he heard so many stories, maybe many of the stories that they are talking in the monastery, maybe, like maybe, I don't know, 80% not true. But people are talking a lot that, because I was kind of one of the lucky student, and every time in the examination, I always got a good mark. And so it is kind of, people think that, okay, maybe he is a good, student and always studying hard. It is not that. It is actually, I'm very lucky student. I always get a very easy question to answer, when you pick up the something. And so anyway, Rinpoche was saying he heard a lot of stories about me in the monasteries. Then he always think really like high of me. And somehow in this life, he was saying that I am like much senior, sort of like, because when he first studied his school in the monastery, I already completed, sort of like graduated. So earlier when I was telling the story, when I was receiving teaching from his previous one, then reading it, and then he was asking to, okay, explain that to me, when I had that kind of feeling to his previous one, and he said when I asked him to give the Dharma teaching, he said he had the same feeling like he is taking a test. So that's Rinpoche is saying that he felt like ZaChoeje is taking test or what he has learned or something like that, but it is not.
아니 제상 든제 인도 땅에 저 말에디 슈에기 삼로라딜레다 녜 미세 냠토 토니 게 슈에 메비네 rumbuche dang ngazo parula thande tachi jawa ti thone ngazo chi mongu pheju ta mongu be thone nangchwe nanglo song shang gyogi lenje sadi di jum di thone ngazo mongu chi pheju chi shimba mongu chi pheju ta mongu be thone andi koche she ti re sam an tirin de rumbuche nyamdo la ta di shwe di ngare sam de sam sos.
So he said, this Dharma talk, I'm just really, he said, I'm not talking it from the experience. I don't have any experience of Dharma, he said, just learn it. Just learn the Dharma. But Rinpoche is saying, sometimes actions speak louder than the word. And he's saying that you can actually see our connection, and this, physical connection, that today we are here, and that itself is a great Dharma teaching. So he said that is his hope, and that is why today he accepted to, be here on the, kind of like on this, to talk some kind of Dharma with all of you.
라야 남아서 제가 가고싶다죠. 마음바야 제기. 아무람 쇼유 남아서 안낭치 강 장바디 기토를 자난 토야기 저 쇼유스.
And he said, I'm very happy again to see all of you, and this is a wonderful meeting, first time meeting all of you. And as I earlier requested, so just kind of like if you are practicing Dharma, then bring Dharma into your daily life, and then just day by day improve more and get a better and better person. And then he hoped that he will see you all again. That is what his hope. So yes, so this is our short Dharma discussion and talk. So if you have any question regarding the Dharma, so please feel free to ask Rinpoche. And so there is a mic there, and if you want to, just kind of ask any question, Rinpoche will answer, or I will answer.
저와 가보시다 마다로 치슈이 아니 계시 랭겨도 마서나 rumbuchila 간지 슈기 chen 렘표인.
He said, please don't ask a difficult question.
Hello, I'm Margie. Thank you so much for coming to visit us. Honor us with your presence. Want me to stop for translation? I understand that you don't want to do Dharma talk, but you've learned a lot in your teaching. So I was wondering if you could just share a little bit about emptiness. I have a couple questions. I know it's a hard one.
I think Rinpoche read your mind already.
And I understand, the emptiness, things are empty of inherent existence. Don't come from themselves, they come from me. Everything, right? Yeah, so if everything comes from me, does that include space itself?
So that is your question?
That's my question, because it's an unchanging thing.
Unchanging.
Yeah, the space doesn't change, but is it coming from me?
Okay.
다 당보거든요. 저와 차보시다 나서.
So he said that when I was looking at you, you are going to bring a very difficult question.
다 지다 당에 간 토도지 슈토에게 배전 슈기로.
I will try my best to answer your question.
아니 다 지다 돈이 남샤디 주다 수수네 지시 지균 요래 다 믹스 단다 기랑 소나에게 단당한도 텐규에게 다외 카돌라 다 최탐제 똑배 딱점 마도 유기 뇌네 스네면도 랑싱기 조금민도스
This emptiness theory that you are asking, there are so many different interpretations from the different tenets. And so the one that you are bringing up seems like it is a prasangiga, like a madhyamika, prasangiga tenets. How they define emptiness is emptiness is just a projection of your mind, like everything is projected by mind and nothing is actually, nothing is existed from its own side.
이제 인도 단다 텐규에게 따와 손베 카돌라 당한조 유자치를 배샤비는 단당한조 조제강기 jala da di shewo jati dinje jaji medo pemegi ibingyo gi tande dila chuba pingyo ze dila nganzo pe shawi na da di Quran jubya di tokpe tak zam kato ne Quran medo pemegi ibdang pema ki sobda inbe chube yapje ji la nganzo dila ming kar tabi ne ko ze ji gi ming tabi na ko lo ming shi top de go res da ina yang di tokpe tak zam shue di kar shugu yore shubi na loi pa ta ni Quran yu gi ngoe ne sudi zamba la pa jo loi ma ta ba yu gi rangshin gi ngoe ne sine mi do yu gi de ne su juba chi yore bes na di yo ma res di shugu yore ma do be zawe Quran gi chashi soso la te ne Quran jube gi chachi yo res di la Quran taksa gi shiji yo res.
So he's saying that when, in the Prasangiga, when they say everything is just imputed by mind, when everything is just a projection, everything is projection of mind, just giving an example. For example, if you look at this, crystal, sort of like a lotus, image, that crystal, sort of like a very full of light thing. So this, just kind of, it is imputed or projected, sort of like the meaning of why it is called it's just a projection is because, when you actually put the name, so whatever we call it, like we label something, So this just kind of like it is label something, and then it become like that. Whatever we have labeled, it become sort of like that. But then if you look at the object itself, from the object itself, then the question is there something, is there something there or not? That's the big question. But somehow, from his understanding, he said that there is something there which is also interdependent. So it is there, not it is not there as independent, but it is there as a dependent. It should be something there. Like if there is no object here, then you just kind of mental projection will not make it sort of like existence. So, that is why, when we talk about the emptiness and object, of course, this is something like it is mental projection, but the question is, is there something there? So there is something there, but that something is also not inherently exist. It is exist depending on each other. So that is, sort of like when you actually say it is just an imputed or projection of your mind, doesn't mean there is nothing there. There should be something there.
Indu tanda da tingyo gi zo dawa song de chö tamche demba jubo du samya me na yang tani du chaji gi namsha tamche tigi res ne so na de di indu nganzo kang meigyo ji dang kang yugyo ni di kaga chen keba chi go resam ching dosro.
So that is why when in the Prasangiga, it is also very important that even though this flower doesn't exist inherently, so that means it exists kind of interdependently, depending on something. But it is not exist sort of like there without any cause or something. So it is there. So this is from the Prasangiga point of view. It is also very important, not just projection of your mind. Like then, sometime you will actually, like when you are understanding the emptiness, you will fall into the nihilistic thing. So if you fall into the nihilistic thing, that's very dangerous, because there should be something from the label point of view, there should be. Like if you put something there is from the label, then it is just you can actually establish the law of cause and effect. So that is why emptiness is kind of like there is a true truth to that. We always keep that essence. Just it is not just like whatever your mind project, it doesn't become that. So for example, here Rinpoche didn't say that, but for example, like if there is some empty space and your mind project a snake there, a snake will not appear there. So there is for example, there is a real snake, and then your mind project, right? So that's kind of like a sort of projection of the mind, like a mind projection. It is not just projection, but there's something there should be there, but that what is there is also not inherently exist. So that is a little bit, difficult to differentiate, like putting a thin line.
Gyaga nalo la da lo kashi gi ngon la tanda gyaga la tanda ngui gi nedang ji tone gyaga la ngui ko mo tonglo di ka be ne ju chumbre di chundu zamba la da ngaran ju lo lengi nalo lo ngoma ne shu chi gang la angi nedong chi shan yo di ko mo nedong se di ngaran ju di 당고 ne lo yi da ne ko nedong yinba loi da ni ngui yinba da digi rintang zini digi chawa che ni tsangma zho digi yore. Da nima chi gya shungi ngui di pechu yo ma res tiri ne song di ngui di pechu mengyo chab res labdu sani ne ko gomu nyedong gi rintang di mengyo dang gomu nyedong ma yinkin so chi chab re da di indi ko gi chawa di che ma du kin chab re. Da di indi zamba digi to ne nga zo karachi hagu udu labi na ngui gomu nyedonsi ne ngui yinba di kurangi yugi ngui ne zhu mebachi. Di ngui ne zhu yu na shengi lo dang tope takwa la ma doba ko nyedon tangpo nini yinba nangshin maungpa yang degu ures. Da yina di rangshin ki zhu meba yinza ngaran zogi lo yi ko nyedon yinba takwa teyi tse digi chawa che zhugu yore. Nima chi di mares labdu di sani ne di chawa che ma do kenda konyedo mayin cha jugu dos di indu di tone manzo loi da segi kan da na chega yuba da rwal kurang gi ngone yang konyedo yimbe gi chaji me o dinje chi keba chi di sonang ji di da ne ju de dan je ne dinje chi da di tone chi chena kirang jo dil len de gi ro shu yu.
And Rinpoche said he will just give you some analogy or examples that actually in reality happens in India, and he hoped that if I give you that example or analogy, that might help you to understand the answer of your question. And the incident, he said that a few years ago in India, that they actually changed some system with the currency. So the currency that, so somehow they have a kind of like 2,000 Indian rupees, their currency, like and it is just kind of, there was a one currency, it put like a 2,000 number on it. And so it was all working fine. That everybody kind of, think that this is, it has a value of the money, and it is the money. And so just kind of they can go to the market and use that and then buy it, everything. Sort of it is functioning. Everything is like that. And then suddenly, government changed something. They actually announced overnight saying that currency is invalid. Okay, so they have the same currency, but like as soon as they announce, they change, the mental projection. So everything's changed. But what happened is when, then after that, this 2,000 rupees kind of like a currency is the same currency, it is not working. Nobody puts the value on that like that. So, and he said that is a good example how, how mind or the label has a power. Label has a sort of label, like when you put something label, then, it just from the object itself, it didn't change anything. It didn't change anything. It's the same currency, same, it is not a fake one. But somehow, as soon as they change that label of it is not real, then it becomes kind of like a fake. It loses its value. So what do you think? He said that is like, so this is one good example of how, label, when you put some label and how that is functioning. And then, also you cannot put that label to anything, right? It has to have something there. It's like some kind of note there, right? Some kind of like object there. So that is sort of like, he said, when that incident happened, Rinpoche said that he actually had some kind of like understanding of this, how in the Prasangiga, where, when you put the label, how things, and then, when you don't have put the label, it's how it, even it is the same object, but it is kind of changing like that. And that is, I think a great analogy and example. It's just kind of something happened in the real life. And that is, I think, as Rinpoche give this analogy, I think in our day-to-day life, that's always happened, right? Like when we put a label on a person, right? And then just kind of like, say, like somebody who's like a doctor or lawyer or president, see how it is changing, right? It's just kind of like, it is the same person, but the label, when you put that label, like, that is what actually happened in our day-to-day life too. Like, for example, when you put a label of being a mother, being a sister, being a husband, being a wife, see, and then just kind of like, and it is starting to function that way, right? But then it is not always like, you cannot just put this label of husband and wife on anybody. It has to have something there too from its side, right? So I think that is just my, I add a little bit, so that's what Rinpoche actually say about so he said he hoped that think about that, labeling and how projection, mental projection works, and that might answer your, question. Yes, yeah. Yes, yeah.
이제 그게 장난도 하다
Generally, even the space and everything is just projected by mind. And so when you are talking about the space itself, then that is also, even though it is an unchanging sort of like a unchanging kind of thing, but it is it appears like an unchanging or space there, but that is from our own perception point of view. But that doesn't necessarily mean there is a space. It is just space for our perception. That's what you see is perceiving as a space there. So just kind of generally talking, it is kind of like even the space is a space depending on something. So that space itself should be a dependent, sort of like interdependent existence. How it exists is it exists depending on something else. So, yeah, that is what Rinpoche said.
Welcome. Is there a lot of pressure because you are
Rinpoche is saying he cannot say it is a pressure. He will take that as positive. Generally it is just kind of like when something, it is like obligations, or some kind of pressure means kind of negative. But, not necessarily everybody is taking that way. But he said how he take being a reincarnation of the great master is great inspiring for him. And it is it is some sort of like a sense of responsibility that, it helped him to have that kind of responsibility and some sort of like a aspiration or inspiration, like somehow it helped him to encourage himself to walk on that path of his previous lives. Yeah.
So my question is, say, my body, my feelings, my thoughts, my awareness, my consciousness, who or what is the my?
Bring to the mind that one.
My, who's the my?
He requested no difficult question. So he said it is a continuation of the earlier emptiness question. It is very related to that one.
다든 제니 요 말이지 숨고 여기 이나야 타니도 막
So it is just kind of like from the Prasangiga point of view, there's kind of like when you actually say my body, my emotion, my experience, and so there is like some sort of like a self, but that self doesn't exist sort of like inherently somewhere. It is not somewhere it is inherently exists. It is just kind of like it's just also a label. It can change from, like it's kind of, but we all have a feeling that oh, it should be somewhere there inherently. Like there is something called me, I, myself, sort of like things like that. But it is kind of like, but then at the same time, if you throw this question saying, so that means that there is no self, then, it is, again, no, there is a self. There should be a self. But then, does the self exist by itself, like inherently somewhere? Then no, that is not that way. So that is kind of like a, so self is there, but self doesn't exist it's sort of like inherently from its, so it is not somewhere there is like a permanent self, like somewhere located. So it is there just in label, just in label. So that is called the mingsam, means just label. So it exists just as a label, but then you cannot say, sometimes, we say that there is no self. It is also not true. That's like, if you say there's no self, then it is kind of going into the nihilistic view. If there is no self, then what you're talking about, my body, my, my emotion, my, experience, all these things. So that is, Rinpoche said, self is sort of like not inherently exist, but it exists. Yeah. Right. So He said the questions are becoming more and more difficult. So he said this actually understanding the emptiness from the word, and so different layers of the meanings and all these things, and it just kind of like it is a little bit difficult to explain, how it is working, but he will actually try to answer your question. Hopefully that will be helpful, he said. So Rinpoche is saying generally emptiness is one of the most profound kind of like nature of the existence. And so it is kind of like we can actually sort of like from his personal experience, like if you ask me, do I actually know the emptiness? And he said, maybe I will say, no, I don't know it. I just learn about it. I just learn about the emptiness, and I just like, if I'm explaining something about the emptiness, I'm not actually talking from, I saw, I know exactly how emptiness is. That is why I'm explaining. So I cannot explain it. That's just kind of like it is in the book. This is what I learned from the, teacher, and something like that. So that is kind of like sometime. If, like for example, like somebody who realize the emptiness, the true nature, sort of like really understand, and then sometime in the in our monastery we say like, if you ask the person, can you explain, how is emptiness, and then they will be not able to explain it. Because it is kind of similar to if you are eating a chocolate, and then if I ask you, so can you define how it tastes like? You cannot you cannot express this in word, right? So that is kind of like generally like emptiness understanding is just pure experience, something that you experience. And then, regarding the word, right? Regarding the, for example, like you were talking about the, the how, like he was teaching that I read it and then I explain, and then he explained the word, right? Sort of like in many different layers, right? So this is kind of like the generally the words, or the texts are kind of like there for us to get to that experience level. But sometimes it is just kind of like very difficult to explain because how, if you cannot express it and if you cannot put it into words, then how can you actually get the meaning out of it? So that is that part is very difficult to explain. But somehow, but just Rinpoche didn't say this, but I will kind of say what I think, just kind of generally like we Tibetan actually, we say, that is the kind of like a Tibetan saying. What is that means is the like a older person who is the example of that is the person who is very weak and cannot stood up by himself is the meaning. And Sigi Karwa means the words are the cane. See, that's the kind of like a, analogy that we put. So somehow, like like for example, if somebody is very weak, cannot stood up by, if he cannot stand up by himself, and what he needs something to hold on, right? Something to hold on to help him to stand up. So that is kind of like the words are like that. But sometimes in the Buddhist, sort of the Buddha's teaching, there are so many meanings actually hidden behind the words. Like for example, I'm just recently sort of like I myself studying this, one Buddha's kind of teaching, which is, one of the Manjushri Namasangiti, that text, which is very, like everybody thinks that is like a, very profound and deep. And it is actually, because there is a one line sort of like a, Buddha actually said, and then, there's a word, tene means and then, Vajradhara, say this. That's the word. So if I translate that, tene panden doji chang means, if I translate that word, like tene panden doji chang means, and then Vajradhara said this. So if I said this one sentence, what are you getting? What is the meaning? Right? So this actually, like, that's just an example, So for example, if just kind of like, if I just say this to you, and I'm saying this like saying, and then he said this, I will say. And then he said this, so what kind of meaning you are getting from this? Like, first of all, and then, right? Means he said something before, right? He did something before, or he did say something before. And so to be able to understand the meaning of, and then he did this, to understand the meaning of this word, you have to know what did he do before that. If you don't understand what he did before that, you will not understand the meaning of what is this and then. And then he did this, and then he said this. But there are so many. So in this one, actually, like it was defining, he said that, and then Buddha said that. So this word itself is the summary of all the texts. So this all meaning of the, whatever is Buddha going to say, the summary of the topic is included in this like 2 words, and then. Because now, if it is there, all there, who will know this then? Who will understand the meaning, all the hidden meaning in these 2 words? Right, so then, like it is just kind of like the word actually, two words that say and then, and it is kind of like in Sanskrit, they actually translate that into two words like evam. You know, evam is like so these two words, then a is like the wisdom and vam is like the compassion. So and like for example, sort of like even the English word and then, like and will say some, you know, all the meanings, then will say, you know, sort of like all the compassionate activities. It's almost like after you become enlightened and then you help other sentient beings. See, there's another meaning there, right? See, that's why the word, like especially in the Buddhist, Buddhism, like a Buddha, like there are so many Buddha's word that can, we always say betun means bebetun, hidden meaning. So there's so many message that is actually hidden, and even you don't need so many Buddha's texts. You just need 2 words and just meditate on that. And then, you know, many of the meaning will actually come from just 2 words. You know, that's a beauty of another thing with the, you know, when you, so that is why the words are actually very important. So that is why, like, I even, like, because of that incident that I was telling you the story, how, you know, my teacher was teaching, well, you know, that time I was very new. And at one point, you know, my teacher actually said that. He said that, oh, there is another subject about the Sangha, like there's, you know, something Gindu Nishu that is like Tondi Sangha sort of like a thing. And that is like after a few years I will be studying that subject. But then he said, you know, at just kind of like in, randomly he said that to me one day. He said that, oh, too bad that you are not in that class. If you are in that class, I have a very special way of teaching that. And I can teach that, you know, like the thing. I have a very interesting way of teaching that from a 9 different level. But too bad, you are not in that class. And also he said, we don't have a time. He was giving actually signal, saying that he won't be there. You know, when you reach that class, I won't be there. He, you know, but I didn't know that time. That time, you know, of course, I didn't take that as a sign, saying that he will, you know, he will pass away. But somehow, those are the, you know, some of the things very interesting that, you know, actually even for one meaning, there are so many different layers of meaning. And yes, of course, you know, from what Rinpoche was saying is, you know, emptiness is generally, he said emptiness is inexpressible. Like, that is why Rinpoche said emptiness is inconceivable. It is inconceivable, inexpressible, like that. All right?
This is a question from Zoom.
Right?
Of the 6 perfections, humility and humbleness fall in of the 6 perfections, does humility and humbleness fall into one of the perfections? If so, which one?
시럽이, 수짐기 시럽이, 수짐기
Humbleness and humility, right? He said, actually, it is part of the morality, out of the sixth perfection. It is kind of like the morality kind of practice, which is kind of like when you actually, when you practice the morality, so being sort of like being good, moral, polite, and just kind of like humbleness, and that's part of that. And then it is also like like sometime when you actually look at the six paramitas, six paramita has a different, like even six paramita can have each of them has a 666 like that. Sort of like, for example, like a morality, practice of morality, and then, sort of like a patient practice of morality, and then like generosity practice of morality, and then like, enthusiasm practice of morality, and meditation practice of morality, and then wisdom of morality. So this is just example. He said, and the sixth perfection will have a six of qualities by itself, like that. So just like if you are talking from a sixth perfection point of view, then this sixth perfection is a very vast, topic, and somehow, just kind of humility or humble is one of the, greatest quality of spiritual practitioners. Yeah. So that is so true that, all sentient beings, we have been each other's beloved, having a very close relationship in one of our past life with each others, and which in Tibetan Buddhism we say, sort of like beloved mother sentient beings, all sentient beings. And so that is one very important part of the Mahayana practice, like when you are actually practicing, when you are generating bodhicitta, that you actually have to have that sense of connection with all sentient beings. But to have that sense of connection, first you have to, for example, there are when in the text, in the text it is defined, so there was a few steps, like the first step to, kind of have that kind of sense of connection or feeling is to understand that they have, you have been mother to each other, beloved to each other. So that part, understanding the first, like the Marsheba means you have to just kind of understand, and you have to see it, you have to know it. If you don't know, then it will be difficult to get that sense of connection feeling. So just kind of to understand, to know that all sentient beings have been your mother or your beloved kind person or kind being, it is just kind of it is not so easy to have that kind of understanding. Just kind of in the text, actually it says that before that you have to understand the four what we call immeasurable practice, such as may all sentient beings be happy, may all sentient beings be free from suffering, may all sentient beings never separate from the happiness, may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, sort of like the four immeasurable practice is kind of very recommended to actually do this. And another thing Rinpoche was saying is that to understand all the mother sentient beings as a beloved mother or kind mother, in that kind of sense of connection is kind of like you have to understand that our past lives are sort of like immeasurable, limitless, sort of like so it is like somehow to actually to be able to understand that all sentient beings have been like a beloved mother or something. You actually have to understand the beginningless nature of sentient beings, like a beginningless nature of our past life. So there is kind of like somehow it is like there is no beginning for my life. That means there is no beginning for anybody's lives. So if it is so immeasurable, if it's so limitless, then why can't why it hasn't been our beloved to each other? So that is kind of the reason, and you have to understand that to understand the all sentient. So that is why it is not easy, but just generally, just kind of like you have to know. And I think maybe that's actually Rinpoche didn't say that, but when he was saying that, I had a feeling that his answer is saying that, for example, we had this kind of like a sense of deep connection because we knew it. And many of you don't have that sense of connection with all the sentient beings because you didn't know it. We don't know it because we don't know that we have been kind to each other in the past life. So that is why I think I will continue what Rinpoche said. So there's like a step by step understanding that marche, and then understanding the kindness, then understanding sort of these things. But I think the bottom line is just important to understand that all sentient beings, we have been beloved to each other. To get that sense of connection feeling is you actually have to know. And then how can you, like how to put the value, how to actually think the kindness is, then Rinpoche was saying that actually you have to put this kind of like a very strong sense of connection with this present life. For example, present life, if you are, like a kind of sense of connection with that person who is very kind to you, in the example that in the Tibetan Buddhism, we always give mother sentient being, right? Beloved mother. So sort of like if you kind of like see the kindness of the other sentient beings or mother sentient being, or this, like even in this life mother, then just kind of bringing that as an example. And then it is easy to actually sort of develop that kind of sense of connection feeling with the person who you like first. That's kind of like it is easier for you to, if there's like if there's a group of people, the people you like, it is actually, if the people you value, people you respect, for them it is easier. So there's a practice like a kind of like a first people who are near to you or people who you like, and then sort of like later maybe the strangers, and then maybe later the difficult people. So there's like there's a kind of different methods and techniques to do, like to generate that kind of sense of connection feelings. Yeah. So this connection, the delwa, which is the connection, is always something to do with the karma, like the karmic connection. And this karmic connection, when we actually define the connection, so there is three different level of kind of like on the surface there is a connection, and then and when you feel this connection because of just kind of just kind of on the surface, like you actually see that connection and you know that connection on the surface, and then there is another layer of connection that is actually unseen, and it is something you have to feel that from the reason, sort of like something that you actually directly cannot perceive, but it is kind of sometimes that connection, that karmic connection is just kind of you feel it, but you don't know it, sort of thing, just kind of there is some kind of reason, oh, I feel this connection because I have this kind of thing, sort of like, so there's something like that. And then there is another layer of connection that is so detailed, and this is, we call it like the most difficult, essence of the connection, which is like the Shindu Kokyur means a very difficult one that we call it. And that part, of course, we cannot understand that part, but we don't have to. But just kind of generally, sort of like we kind of like, if we open ourselves to, see that we actually have that sense of connection already there with all the sentient beings. So I have an interesting incident, Rinpoche said. It was in the debate ground, and one of his, debate partner, who was his classmate, and so they are having some kind of debate, and then in the middle of the debate, so he actually asked him this kind of like common question that everybody wants to ask to him, and he said, so you are the reincarnation of great, Shakor Khentrul. So do you know it? He asked that question to him. And Rinpoche said, okay, so why you asking that question? And so if you know, how do you know? That was the question. So he said that, when he asked this question, and then, of course, Rinpoche answered, he said that, I don't remember my past life, even though just kind of like I believe that I am the reincarnation. And so then his debate friend actually said, how do you know? How do you really? And then, Rinpoche actually, instead of answering him, he said, I will ask you two questions, and you answer to me that two, a question, and then I will tell you what it is. And then he said, in a kind of little bit playful way, Rinpoche asked him. He said, so you're asking me about the past life. So do you believe in past life? First of all, that is my question. Do you really believe? And or you just know past life, or you just believe your past life? That is my question. And another question is, do you believe in Dalai Lama? And and he said that, I believe that I am the reincarnation because I believe there is a past life, and the person who told me that I am the reincarnation of that, master was Dalai Lama. And because of these two, even though I don't know exactly, but I believe. So then, he actually playfully said that to him, if you believe in past life and if you believe in what Dalai Lama said, then you should believe too. So I think the summary of what he was answering is to have that sense of connection with all the sentient beings is you have to know that you have been beloved to each other, in the past life. Yeah.
I tend to do
So bringing Dharma into your daily life, and especially if you are talking of Tantra, like Tara and Yamantaka and things like that. So generally, it is just kind of some of these Dharma mantras, and some of them are a little bit powerful. And so in generally, you kind of don't bring just kind of whenever you want it or anything like that. So because sometimes this mantra has a different power, different energy, and things like that. So just kind of like generally when you actually bringing Dharma into our daily life, and for example, with your question, it is just kind of like you are saying, bringing the Dharma energy into the with your day-to-day activities, such as being with the horse, or with the animals, or things like that. When you are bringing the Dharma energy, it is generally there are three. Rinpoche is saying there are three ways. For example, like the enlightened beings, when they actually kind of bring the energy of the teaching to others, it becomes totally beneficial. Why? Because they exactly know, what they need, what is their situation, and everything. So the enlightened being knows everything. That's why it becomes totally 100% beneficial. And then there is another kind of being who are not enlightened, but they are bodhisattva, who are a very totally compassionate, and they're just kind of their intention is 100% pure, and just because of their, just kind of there is no self-cherishing sort of attached to whatever they were doing. So when they do something like, sharing the Dharma or teaching or giving the mantra, then it is it will be beneficial, almost beneficial. So that's kind of Tibetan saying, totally beneficial, almost beneficial. But then there's another a level of person, for example, an ordinary person who actually doesn't know anything, sort of like, generally what they need, and just kind of we are just saying. So most of the time, it is kind of like a not so beneficial, just kind of like it's better than nothing, but sometimes you just have to sort of like kind of check the situation. So that is kind of Rinpoche is saying generally the things like that happens, when you are bringing Dharma, kind of energy into, other sentient beings like that. Okay, so I think you have one last question. Can you just ask your question and then we will be done? Are you okay? All right. So yeah, I saw you standing there, but then, all right, okay. All right, so thank you very much. And so today, I, on behalf of everybody, I want to say, extend very thank you to Rinpoche, Tujuse. And it is a really great honor. It was kind of like a special moment for me because, kind of like the energy, like of my teacher, into this different body. And sometimes that's kind of a little bit interesting because, like so Rinpoche is saying, different body, when I'm saying different body and Rinpoche is saying, yes, that's of course exactly, his previous one was tall one. And he said, this life, I don't know what I did, but I'm very short. So then when I said, oh, it looks, it feels different, and he said, definitely you will feel different. Because previous one was very tall, and this life is very short. So, yeah, so it is kind of like a, and very, I don't know how to say it, but it is a wonderful, wonderful experience to be sharing this with all of you, and that's like, I am very impressed with some of the things that Rinpoche answer, which is like it really sort of like it make me believe more. So so today I think that much, and then tomorrow I requested Rinpoche to establish some spiritual connection with all of you. And first, actually, I thought Rinpoche will give some empowerment, but Rinpoche is so humble. And, he said that, I am not qualified to give, qualified to give empowerment. And, but actually, then I said to him, I remember your previous life was also saying that. Because, like he also said that to me, that I actually don't give empowerment. And then I said, why? You are a very qualified master. And he said, I don't know. This life I'm not going to give, but next life, he told me that to me, next life, maybe. So I was actually, bringing that conversation back to him, and I said, your previous one said maybe. So this is the time for maybe, and he was saying that, no, please, I cannot, So I said, then please, just to have a spiritual connection, please give some oral transmission of Heart Sutra. And oral transmission, Heart Sutra is a short one. And then, the three principal path texts, which is also a three main important for the spiritual practice by Lama Tsongkhapa. And then, I think many of you are practicing 21 Tara, so which is bringing the 21 Tara blessing or energy into your life with the, kind of like, will be good for our kind of like, it is a fearless, encouraging, sort of like energy of the green Tara. So these three oral transmission, the energy kind of like a transmission, tomorrow, in the morning from 10. So it won't take long. So, please, if you have a time, it will be a great opportunity to join. And then we will have a potluck, sort of like from 11:30 or, to 12:30. So if you have a time, please join, and then you can actually personally, when we are having lunch, you can talk to Rinpoche and, us if you have any question and stuff. All right? All right, so thank you all very much, and then see you tomorrow. Okay.